on this episode of Finding Beautiful Strangers. So I have 10 interviews, and I take those interviews very seriously. And at the end, I send over a pizza box with a guy dressed as a turtle to kind of like seal the deal, because I was about to launch the Ninja Turtles at Radio City, and I invite them to come. I don't know if I'm going to get the job or what, but guess what? I got the job, and I was so excited.
Holding my breath and I'm ready to go. I'm falling right in and I'm ready to go. I found what I want and I know that we're on top, so I'm tapping and I'm ready to whoa.
Finding Beautiful Strangers is my adventure as a serial entrepreneur and how the people I meet along the way make it possible. It's not a job, it's a lifestyle. I'm Abby Wallach, and it's my story. I'm at dinner with my friend's father, Steve, a huge music producer with big name talent. And he says, I have a job for you. I'm like, you do? He's like, yeah, show up at my office tomorrow, ask for Bill. Opportunity presented itself. I walk through the door. I go in. It's this small, cool, groovy, smoky office. Joan Jett's in there, a bunch of gold records. It's like very rock and roll. And I'm like, this is kind of fun. And remember, I grew up listening to Steve as an executive producer in rock and roll. So I was kind of into that. And I meet Bill, and he says, we're going to hire you. You're going to get X amount of dollars, and you're going to work on the Moscow Circus and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Well, I'm like all over that shit. It's like cool, and it's down the block from my apartment, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do whatever they tell me to do. So I worked there for 2 years. I helped work on the Moscow Circus. I learned the business. I learned the promotion. And it's, a small office. We're a promoter, and we're learning and taking these productions around the country. And it's interesting, and I'm learning a lot. And it's really cool, and the people are terrific. But honestly, I really, really wanted to be in beauty. My heart was tugging. I don't know why. I just wanted to be back there. So I did my job, and I did it well. But I knew that I needed something else after this production. The production was ending, and, the way things staff up in production, they start and then they end and they go on to the next thing. So I said to Steve, I have a really big job opportunity. And he's like, you can't leave me. This is 2 years after I'm working in the office, and I'm learning the ropes, and I'm doing the PR and the marketing and the advertising. The people are terrific, and it's rock and roll, and it's fun, and it's celebrities and all that good, cool stuff. It's a lot of work, and it's really, really hard, but it's a good foundation to learn this business. And I learn a lot. I learn a lot about tours. I learn about promotion. I learn a lot about how you take something and you put it across the country, and it's interesting to me. So fast forward, he's like, you can't leave. We're on our next lap of the tour, and now it's the Ninja Turtles, and they're launching at Radio City, and I'm like in on this Ninja Turtle thing, launching at Radio City, and I'm creating pizzas in a box, and he doesn't know, but I still want to have another job because I needed my next gig, and like any entrepreneur, you're always looking for your next gig, but I couldn't get it in beauty. So a friend of mine tells me about some job at Showtime Networks, but I'm like, all right, well, tell me about it. So it's this job to be head of special events at the network. And I'm like, wow, let me interview for it. So I have 10 interviews, and I take those interviews very seriously. And at the end, I send over a pizza box with a guy dressed as a turtle to kind of like seal the deal, because I was about to launch the Ninja Turtles at Radio City, and I invite them to come. I don't know if I'm going to get the job or what, but guess what? I got the job, and I was so excited. But again, my heart was still in beauty, but it wasn't taking me there. I was going in a different direction. So I took it. I ran with it. Steve didn't want me to leave. We had a cute thing in the Hamptons where he said, let's play ball. If you can get the basketball in the hoop across the pool, you can leave. If you don't, you have to stay and work for me. And I looked at him with his big grin. This is a great guy. He's like, I love him. I grew up in his house. And what do you think happened? I made the basket. And I was like, I'm out of here. And I was on to my next gig. So I became the senior publicist of special events at Showtime Networks, a very exciting title, a very exciting moment. They stuck me on boxing, which was wild. I was throwing parties at the Rainbow Room. I was doing international film festivals. I was learning about comedy. for all of the major comedy people like the Tim Allens and the Brett Butlers and Roseanne Barrs had their own shows. They had their own acts, and many of them were on Showtime on the network. As the senior publicist of special events, my job was to take a program and then tour it across the country through the MSO, through the multi-system operators. And it was similar to what I had learned at the Moscow Circus and Ninja Turtle rock band tours, because that's what we would do. We would take those ideas and then we would travel them around the country. So the interesting thing about that is, you're always learning along the way, and you're taking skills that you learn in one job and you're applying them to another job. And as you continue your journey, you're always taking a piece, whether you hated it or is good or bad or ugly. There is value to learning something and using that in different parts of your life and different parts of your professional and personal journey. So as I continue on my way at Showtime, I'm there for quite some time. I'm learning the ropes. I'm really digging into cable. It's a very exciting time in the world of cable. We're doing lots of original films with lots of well-known directors and producers and talent. I was always hunting for information, so I became friendly with the CEO. His name was Matt Blank, and at the time he wasn't the CEO, but he was next in line, and we had a lot in common. And he was always very supportive of my ideas because he knew I was a true creative and an innovator. And when I would plan these big live events around the country, he was usually the speaker. So he became a mentor to me, and I shared my interests in production and programming and creating new ideas in television, because that was the industry that I was in, and I thought it was fascinating. And, there was so much room for content and programs and original ideas, and Showtime really fostered that at the time. So I had a very big idea, and that was to create the first kids cooking show.
I got a heart on fire. Someone hit the alarm. A heart on fire.
He knew that I was creating this show because, like anyone at a network, we're always, most people are creative unless they're on the finance side and they're creating. So I was running around the network trying to figure out how to create my own show. And that is exactly what I did. I created a kids cooking show. It was super fun. It was kind of like Disneyland meets the Food Network. I mocked it up. I was in everybody's office at that network trying to figure out how to launch a show. And I literally created this fun treatment. It was okay. It wasn't fantastic, but it was the beginning of a career in production and media and content. And a woman that I was working with, I told her what I was doing, and she said, there's a man named Kermit Love, and he created Big Bird, and he created Snuffleupagus, and he is the head puppeteer for Jim Henson. I happen to have his number. I just thought that was so nice that this woman I worked with, and she knew I was a creator and I had this thing and I wanted to make it happen, and everybody was helping me at the network. See, that's what I would do as a creative. I would come up with ideas and I would just talk to people. I would tell them what I was doing, and if they were interested, many times they would jump in. And a lot of things that happened were because I was open to it and I let people into my ideas. Not always a great idea because many times things get stolen, but I didn't think of it like that. I looked at every opportunity. I was going to learn something. I was going to meet someone, and I was always thinking about what was my next thing. So at this point, beauty and fashion are not in my sights. I'm all in on the entertainment, media business, creating shows, working with interesting people, throwing live events across the country and around the world, working hard and learning a lot, learning how to be political, learning how to work, learning how to plan, and learning these industries. And where it ultimately led me was to this gentleman, Kermit Love. And Kermit Love was a man larger than life. Could you imagine that this amazing creative who created the designs for the Balanchine Ballet and the Joffrey Ballet, the most beautiful ballets in the world, created Big Bird, a legend in his time, Snuffleupagus, the biggest puppets in the whole wide world. Could you imagine that I was blessed and offered this opportunity to have him kind of like a surrogate grandfather, but also as my mentor? In In the next episode, a chance TV pitch leads to an executive producer title in La La Land. And one of the only doors I didn't walk through might have been a huge misfire. Plus, the fortuitous rise and unfortunate fall of a mentorship with a legend. Don't be a stranger. Find me at abby.wallach on Instagram. And if you want to learn more about my projects and the things that I've done, check it out, abbywallach.com. This podcast is produced and edited by Mark Rako. Copyright 2022, Abby Wallach Productions.